All right, let's jump right in. To really get what a huge deal Goethe's revolution was, you have to picture the world he was walking into. It was a world that gave you this stark and honestly pretty dissatisfying choice about how to even understand reality.
So, on one side, you had the heavyweight champion, Newtonian science. This way of thinking told you to understand the world by, well, taking it apart. You reduce it to a machine, explain it all with math, and you, the scientist, are supposed to be this completely detached, passive observer. Then, on the other side, you had Platonic idealism. This camp said that the world you see and touch, yeah, that's just a bunch of flawed, shaky copies. The real reality, the perfect forms, they exist somewhere else entirely. So you're stuck, right? You either dissect a dead world or you dream of a perfect one that you can never actually experience. For Goethe, that wasn't a choice, it was a prison. And this feeling, this deep dissatisfaction, it wasn't just some minor complaint for him. It was the engine driving his entire life's work. He was absolutely determined to find a third way out of this dead end. And man, his critique was sharp. He basically said that by isolating something and just boiling it down to numbers, science was literally killing the living thing it was trying to understand. You're just swapping this rich, breathing reality for a dead, abstract model. He also went after the great philosopher Immanuel Kant, who argued we can never really know the thing in itself, the actual reality behind what we perceive. Goethe just flat out refused to accept that. He was convinced we could know the world directly, that we could participate in it.
So, what was his alternative? He didn't just complain about the old ways. He actually built a new one. He created this incredibly disciplined practice for engaging with the world, and he called it delicate empiricism.
And this is anything but passive. It's an incredibly active process. First, and this is the really hard part, you have to try and purge all your preconceived notions. You have to look with fresh eyes. Then, instead of studying just one static thing, you create a series. So for a plant, for example, you don't just look at one leaf. You study it through its entire journey, from a tiny bud to full bloom to decay, and you compare it to all the other forms it takes. Step 3 is this really unique skill Goethe called exact sensory imagination. This is where you hold all of that information, all those images, in your mind's eye, not like a daydream, but with intense focus, until you start to see the hidden patterns that connect everything. And if you do all that, you can reach the final stage, intuitive judgment. It's this moment of insight, a kind of thinking perception, where you suddenly just get it. You grasp the universal law that's living and breathing inside the very specific thing you've been watching so closely.
The whole point of this intense process, the ultimate goal, is to perceive what Goethe called the Urphänomen, or the primal phenomenon. Now, this isn't some abstract theory. It's a real, observable event where a universal law makes itself visible. It's the bedrock, the point where the phenomenon just lays its secret bare, right in front of you. Think about color. For Goethe, the primal phenomenon of color wasn't a bunch of equations about wavelength. No, it was the direct, undeniable experience of seeing color pop into existence at the boundary where light and darkness meet. You don't explain the primal phenomenon, it's the thing you use to explain everything else. It is the foundation. Now, to really understand how brilliant this is, you have to see it for what it is. Goethe's direct answer to a 2,000-year-old question from Plato. He takes Plato's core idea and completely flips it on its head. So, quick refresher on Plato. He thought true reality, like the perfect form of a tree with a capital T, exists in some other higher dimension. The actual trees we see are just flawed shadows of that perfection. So to get true knowledge, you had to turn away from your senses and use pure reason to try and remember that perfect heavenly blueprint. And this is the revolution. Where Plato said reality is transcendent, beyond nature, Goethe says no, it's immanent, it's in nature. Where Plato's form was a static, perfect blueprint, Goethe's was a living, dynamic process. This one change flips everything. Instead of ignoring your senses, Goethe tells you to plunge deeper into them. The goal isn't to remember some perfect thing from the past, it's to participate in a living, creating present. This quote just nails it. This is the most important shift. Goethe's great discovery wasn't some kind of fossil of a primal plant. It was the living law of metamorphosis itself. The idea of the plant wasn't a noun. It was a verb. It was the active, shaping force that lawfully turns one form into the next. A stem, then a leaf, then a petal. The universal isn't a thing. It's a pattern of becoming.
The implications here are just massive. Seeing the world this way fundamentally changes our relationship not just with nature, but with our own minds.
In the end, what Goethe's work does is it heals that split that defined his era. We're no longer just detached spectators looking at a dead machine, and we're not prisoners in a cave looking at shadows. We get to be engaged participants in a world that is jam-packed with meaning, and our minds are the very tools we need to perceive it.
So what Goethe really leaves us with is this incredible shift in perspective. First, the world isn't just random stuff. It's full of meaning, and we can actually understand it. Second, our minds aren't cut off from reality. They're perfectly designed to perceive that meaning directly. And finally, the universal, the eternal. It's not some far-off idea. For Goethe, it's the creative power you can see right now at work in every single leaf, in every single burst of color.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question for today, doesn't it? In our world, a world that runs on big data, on algorithms and artificial intelligence, is there still a place for this kind of direct, human thinking perception? Can we still learn to see the world through Goethe's eyes? And maybe more importantly, should we?